All right, so I want to model for you a short response and what a 2-point response would look like. And we're going to use one of the passages from the 2014 fifth grade New York State Common Core exam. So some of you might recognize this story as we're reading it. Grace is a student intern with Dr. Watts, an oceanographer studying the effects of a recent oil spill on an ocean reef. When the co-pilot of their tiny submersible ship becomes ill, Grace must fill in, even though she is untrained and nervous about the dangers of sinking 1,600 feet below the surface of the ocean. Deep by John Frizzell. She opened her eyes and saw another world. The lights of the sub illuminated huge coral mounds covered with thickets of delicate branches. There were crabs swarming over it and starfish dotted about. Tiny sea anemones sprouted from every patch of sand between the thickets. Everything looked gray-blue, but as they got closer and the sub's lights became more effective, colors blossomed on the starfish and anemones. Feathery white plumes of plankton, almost like snow, drifted in slow currents above the ocean floor. The vehicle hovered as they carefully monitored the area, looking for visible signs of oil. There didn't appear to be any, Grace quickly noted. The weight of the ocean lay heavily upon her, and all she could think about was resurfacing. "No oil," she said joyously. "None that we can see. Have you looked at the data logger? Light is green." "Good. Can you explain how there could be oil affecting this area without us being able to see it?" Dr. Watts was maneuvering the sub. Its little electric thrusters were whining as it moved against the slow currents toward a reef mound and steadied itself in front of an outcrop. "Well, oil has many toxic components, and some of them dissolve in water or can be suspended," she answered. "So we could be in the middle of a high concentration and not see it." Grace didn't want to play academic games. She wanted to escape to the surface. "That's correct," said Dr. Watts. A short robot arm was unfolding from the sub right in front of Grace. They injected emulsifier into the oil where it was escaping from the seafloor, Watts explained. That kept a lot of it from reaching the surface, but dispersed it into the deep water. It may still be down here. A claw at the end of the robotic arm closed on a branch of coral, broke it off, and then retracted to drop its prize into a sample container that opened to receive it and then closed tightly. "Excellent. Now we have a sample that could tell us what really happened," Watts said. "But it all looks so healthy." "Yes, it does. But effects may take a long time to show. This is a slow-growing ecosystem. Those reefs are millions of years old. It will take decades to measure the effects on them. And research money will become harder and harder to get. We need to sample as much of the deep ocean as we can before our funding runs out." The sub was in motion again, headed toward what looked like a huge cloud bank over a muddy bottom. "No way!" She could hear Watts' frustrated voice. The reef and most of the bottom had disappeared as they entered the cloud. The lights penetrated only a few feet into the gloom. "I'm going to need your help now," he said urgently. Grace's muscles and nerves tightened as the lights on the sub got brighter. A huge boulder loomed over the sub. "Mustn't hit that," she could hear Dr. Watts mumble. Grace stared into the gloom. Sweat was running down her face despite the cooling system humming in the can. "We need baseline data, and every sample is precious," Watts said. "Can you see anything?" Grace could see a coral branch that appeared and disappeared in the murky water. "Yes." "I can't see anything. I can't even see the arm. It's in front of you. Tell me when the grab is on target." "I can hardly see it," Grace warned. "It comes and goes." "Concentrate, then. Concentrate." The arm was disappearing into the murk. She couldn't see the claw. When it cleared a moment later, the claw was touching the prize. "Close." She saw the claw close and miss as the sub drifted sideways. "Didn't get it. Open." The grab disappeared again. The thrusters whined as Dr. Watts pushed them away from the looming menace of the boulder. Grace stared into the floodlit gloom, waiting. There was a ripple in the current. A branch appeared. Up a few feet. The sub lilted. The claw brushed the branch. "Hold steady and close." Just as the claw grabbed the coral, the cloud masked it. "What happened?" asked Dr. Watts. "On target. It's ours." "Well done, Grace. Very well done." Okay, so one of the questions from the 5th grade 2014 test that went along with this passage was, How does paragraph 1 prepare the reader for the rest of the story? Use 2 details from the story to support your response. So here we have a sample student, and this response received a score of 2 points from the New York State scores. Paragraph 1 prepares the reader for the rest of the story, giving details on where they are. Paragraph 1 explains where they are and why they are there. From paragraph 1, it says they carefully monitor the area looking for visible signs of oil. From that, you can tell they are watching oil. But when it says drifted in slow currents above the ocean floor, it tells you they are in the ocean close to the ocean floor. All right, so this received a 2-point score because first, the student restated the question right here in the opening. That's your R. And then answered it. Answered it by saying, giving details on where they are. So that right there is your answer. Then you have your text evidence. So you can see that she talks about how paragraph 1 explains where they are and why they're there. And she gave a quote. It says they carefully monitored the area looking for visible signs of oil. That is the F of your RAF paragraph, the text evidence. And then she followed up that text evidence with the T. The T is showing. This shows why my answer is correct. From that you can tell is another way of saying this shows. Then she gives a second piece of text evidence. You can see the quotation marks here. Drifted in slow currents above the ocean floor. So you have another piece of text evidence, for example. And then she follows up that second piece of text evidence with another explanation or elaboration. It tells you, which is another way of saying this shows, that they are in the ocean close to the ocean floor. So again, you have your second T. This sentence was T1. This sentence was T2. Up here you had for example 1, and here you had for example 2. And so if you go according to the checklist, this has all 3 elements required for 2 points. So before we end this lesson, I want to show you one more sample student response for this question. This response also received 2 points. However, this time, I'm just going to read the response, and I would like you to think about the checklist of what makes a 2-point response and see if you can identify the parts of this paragraph that actually show the student restating and answering the question, giving 2 pieces of text evidence, and then showing how that evidence answers the question. So you're looking for where in the paragraph the student either elaborated or explained and in some way showed what the evidence proves. Paragraph 1 prepares the reader for the rest of the story because it describes how it was happening in Grace's perspective. For example, in the story it says, she opened her eyes and saw another world. This shows that Grace was curious about the ocean. Another example is, there were crabs swarming over it and starfish dotted about. Tiny sea anemones sprouted from every patch of sand between the thickets. This proves that Grace is trying to observe the ocean as much as she could. In conclusion, Grace got to help Dr. Watts with the experiment. Again, see if you can identify the different parts of a RAF paragraph that are present in the student's response, and see if you can understand why this response scored 2 points on the rubric.